Mark and Julia Reynolds had always seemed like the ideal couple. They met in college, bonded over their shared love of music, and after graduating, they built a life together in the peaceful suburbs of Greenview. Mark had climbed the corporate ladder as a successful marketing executive, while Julia turned her passion for baking into a thriving bakery called Sweet Haven. They had an 8-year-old son, Ethan, who was the heart of their world. From the outside, they seemed perfect: family trips to the lake, cozy movie nights, and long conversations over coffee on their front porch. But as the years passed, their marriage started to change. Mark's job became more demanding. He often came home late, exhausted and distracted. Julia convinced herself that this was just part of life. Everyone hit rough patches. Yet, something felt off. Julia first noticed small things. Mark started leaving his phone face down on the table, something he'd never done before. He became more guarded, stepping outside to take phone calls or claiming he needed to work late multiple times a week. One night, Mark returned home smelling faintly of perfume, one Julia didn't wear. "Who were you meeting?" she asked lightly, trying to sound casual. "Oh, just the team," Mark replied. "We grabbed drinks after work." His words felt rehearsed. Julia's concerns deepened when Mark seemed unusually attentive to his appearance. He started going to the gym more often, changed his cologne, and even bought a new watch, something he'd never shown interest in before. Then came the moment that shifted Julia's suspicion into certainty. While folding laundry one evening, she noticed a faint pink lipstick stain on the collar of Mark's shirt. Her stomach tightened. Julia knew she couldn't confront him without proof. Instead, she watched quietly. She noticed that Mark often claimed to have client dinners on Friday evenings. One Friday night, Julia decided to follow him. She told Mark she was closing the bakery late and waited in her car near his office. At 7 p.m., Mark left the building, not alone. Walking beside him was a woman Julia didn't recognize. She had sleek black hair, wore a fitted red dress, and laughed easily as they entered La Vigna, an upscale Italian restaurant. Heart pounding, Julia waited outside. An hour later, she watched as Mark and the woman lingered over wine, leaning close to each other. When Mark reached across the table and took the woman's hand, Julia knew. That night, Julia barely slept. The next morning, she confronted Mark directly. "Who's Rachel?" she asked coldly. Mark froze mid-sip of his coffee. "What?" "I saw you with her last night," Julia said. "Don't lie." Mark's face turned pale. "It's not what you think." "Oh, really?" Julia snapped. "Because it sure looked like a date when you were holding her hand." After a long silence, Mark confessed. Rachel was a colleague, someone new to his department. Their connection had started innocently, but soon, it escalated into something more. He admitted to meeting her in secret for weeks. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Mark said, tears filling his eyes. "I was stressed, and I felt distant from you. I was weak." Julia's anger boiled over. "Weak? You betrayed me, Mark. You lied, to me, to Ethan." "I love you," Mark pleaded. "I'll end it. I'll fix this." But Julia wasn't ready to hear that. Julia asked Mark to leave for a while. She needed time to think, and to heal. She leaned heavily on her close friends and poured her energy into her bakery, turning Sweet Haven into her refuge. Mark tried to redeem himself. He ended things with Rachel immediately and started therapy on his own. Julia agreed to counseling too, not for reconciliation at first, but to ensure they could co-parent Ethan without tension. Over time, Mark's regret seemed genuine. He worked hard to regain Julia's trust, but the emotional damage was deep. Julia forgave him eventually, not because she felt she had to, but because she realized holding on to anger was exhausting. Their marriage didn't return to what it once was. Julia never forgot the betrayal, and Mark knew that rebuilding their bond would take years. While they remained committed as parents, their relationship was left permanently altered, a reminder that trust, once broken, can be mended but rarely fully restored.
Now it's time to go answer the question of the day and get your points, and if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please like and subscribe now. This is how we continue to stay in business. Thank you and good luck.